The first time someone came to the house, I didn't get up to check. I was inside with my kids, TV on, phone in my hand, and I thought it was the wind. We'd moved out there about 4 months before any of this started. The place was up past the state road, gravel for the last mile and a half. Then our driveway was another quarter-mile off that. Tyler and I had spent 2 years talking about getting out of the city. We were in a 2-bedroom apartment paying too much to be that cramped with 2 kids. Marin was 4. Jack was 18 months. So we started looking, and what we could actually afford in town was depressing, but out in the mountains you could get real land for what we were paying in rent. We found the place online. 3 bedrooms, big porch, a creek at the bottom of the property, 40 acres. The price was so low I made Tyler call to make sure it was real. It was real. It was just far from everything. That was the trade-off. Tyler had gotten on at the regional hospital before we even closed on the house. The schedule rotated. Days, some weeks, nights, others. Night shifts he'd leave before 7 in the evening and wouldn't walk back in until after 9 the next morning. 12-hour shifts, plus the drive. When he left, it was still light out. By the time the kids were in bed, it was just me in a house at the end of a gravel road with nothing around it but trees and hills, and about 40 acres of land we'd bought with every dollar we had. So on his night shifts, I had from sundown to sunrise alone with 2 kids. And I need to explain what dark means out there, because I didn't understand it until I lived in it. I grew up with streetlights. You always had something. A porch light next door, headlights, the glow off a gas station down the block. Out here you turn the porch light off and you cannot see your yard. You look out the kitchen window and you get your own face looking back. That's it. First few weeks that messed with me a little, but I got used to it. Or I thought I did. During the day it was everything we wanted. Marin running around the yard screaming her head off. Jack crawling through the grass getting filthy. I had a garden started. The lady down the road brought us a pie the first week. It was good. I want to be clear about that. It was actually good. We weren't unhappy. We weren't second-guessing anything. We thought we'd made the best decision of our lives. Those first 4 months were fine, normal. The house had its sounds. Floors popping when the temperature shifted, pipes doing whatever pipes do, but nothing that bothered me. I got comfortable out there. I actually liked the quiet on Tyler's night shifts once the kids were down. Glass of wine, bad TV, the whole couch to myself. It felt like a treat. Then around the start of the 5th month, on a Tuesday, both kids asleep, Tyler at the hospital since 6:45, something tapped on the side of the house. Around 10:30, east side. It wasn't regular, not like a branch swinging where you can predict the rhythm. It was scattered. A few taps, then quiet, then one more, then nothing for a while, then a couple fast ones. I sat there and thought it was annoying. That was my whole reaction. I was annoyed. 20 minutes and it stopped. I checked the front door, looked out the kitchen window into nothing, went back to the couch. Tyler got home after 9 the next morning. I mentioned it over coffee. He walked the outside of the house and found a sourwood branch growing close to the siding on that side. Said the wind probably knocked it against the wall. Said he'd cut it that weekend. He was right. The branch was there. I saw it myself. So that was that. For about 5 days. The following Tuesday, Tyler was on nights again. Kids down by 8:30, kitchen cleaned up, me on the couch. Around 10, I heard it. The tapping was back on the east side. But this time it moved. It went for a while, and then it stopped and picked up on the back wall near the kitchen. Then nothing for 10 minutes. Then the east side again, like something walking along the house and touching it as it went. I got up and turned on the porch light. Went to the kitchen window. The yard went about 40 feet before the grass ended and the trees started. The porch light reached maybe half of that. Beyond it, nothing. I stood there staring at the tree line, telling myself the branch, the wind, whatever. Then it stopped. Not winding down, not tapering off. Just done. The second I was standing at the window, it cut out. Like whatever was doing it knew I'd moved. I backed away from the glass. I don't know why. I just didn't want to be that close to it anymore. I went back to the couch and turned the TV up. Then something screamed. From the woods behind the house, maybe 100 yards out. This shriek that went right through the walls. High and raw, and it went on way too long. I was off the couch before I knew I was standing. My whole body went cold. It sounded like a woman being attacked. That's exactly what it sounded like, and I had my phone in my hand with 911 half dialed. It stopped. Then it happened again, further away. Same sound, then quiet. I called Tyler. He picked up on the second ring, and I was talking so fast he had to tell me to slow down. I described it, and he was quiet for a second. And then he said it was probably a fox. He said foxes scream out here, and it sounds like a person. He said a couple of the guys at work had told him about it. Normal thing. I looked it up on my phone. He was right. Fox screams sound like someone being murdered. They were videos. I played one, and it was close to what I'd heard. Close enough. I told myself, okay, Fox, done. Tyler said he was sorry I got scared and he'd be home after 9. I left every light in the house on. I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, and I didn't sleep until I heard his truck on the gravel the next morning. That was about 2 weeks after the tapping started, and if it had stopped there, I wouldn't be telling any of this. Over the next couple of weeks it kept happening, but only sometimes. 3 or 4 quiet nights in a row, nothing. I'd start to feel stupid about being nervous. Then Tyler would leave for a night shift, and around 10 or 11 it would start. The tapping. Sometimes the screaming from the woods. Once I heard what sounded like footsteps on the porch, and I turned the light on and looked through the peephole, and there was nothing there. I brought it up with Tyler a few times. He was never dismissive, I want to say that. He didn't act like I was crazy. He just had an answer for everything. The tapping was the branch, which he still hadn't cut because he worked 6 days a week. The screaming was foxes. The footsteps were probably raccoons. He said they come up on porches looking for trash, and they're heavier than you'd think. And every time, he wasn't wrong. Everything he said was possible. I'd hear his explanations and nod and think, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then he'd leave for a night shift, and the sun would go down, and I'd be at that kitchen window again, staring at my own reflection. Then Maren started talking about the man. Saturday morning, Tyler was home. We were all in the kitchen, and Maren was eating cereal, and she looked up and asked if the man was coming back today. I said, what man? She said, the man who stands by the trees. My arms went numb from the elbows down. Tyler looked at me. I looked at him. He asked Maren what she meant, and she said sometimes when she's playing outside, there's a man standing where the yard ends and the trees start. She said he watches her. She said he doesn't wave back. Tyler walked the tree line that afternoon, all the way around the property where it met the yard. He said he didn't find anything. No footprints, no trash, nothing. He told me Maren was at the age where kids invent stuff. Imaginary friends, imaginary people. His niece had an imaginary neighbor she talked to for a full year. Maren did make stuff up. She had a whole thing the month before about a purple dog that lived in the closet. Kids do that. But the purple dog didn't make my arms go numb. And when Tyler said imaginary, I watched Maren's face, and she didn't react the way a kid reacts when you call their pretend thing pretend. She just went back to eating her cereal. I need to tell you about the chair. We had an Adirondack chair at the edge of the yard, near where the grass thinned out before the tree line. Tyler had put it there the first week because that spot had a view of the valley. He'd sit there some mornings with his coffee. It faced out, away from the house, looking at the mountains. About a month after the tapping started, I came out one morning, and it was turned around, facing the house, not blown over, not on its side, placed. Square on the ground, lined up with the back of the house, pointed right at the kitchen window. Like someone had picked it up, walked it around, and set it down. I stood on the porch and looked at it, and my skin went tight all over. Tyler was asleep. He'd gotten home after 9 from a night shift. I walked out and turned the chair back around. I stood there with my hand on it and looked at the tree line, and the tree line looked back. I didn't tell Tyler about the chair. I don't know why. I think part of me knew that if I told him, he'd have an explanation, and I didn't want to hear another explanation. I just wanted to stop seeing that chair pointed at my kitchen. The motion light on the back of the house started going off around the same time. We'd had it since we moved in, and it had tripped maybe twice in 4 months, both times a deer. Now it was going off at night, always on Tyler's night shifts, always between 10 and midnight. I'd see the backyard light up through the window, and I'd go look, and there'd be nothing. Whatever tripped it was already gone, or had moved somewhere the light couldn't reach. Tyler adjusted the sensitivity. It kept going off. One morning I came outside and there was mud on the porch steps. Not a lot. 2 smears on the second step, 1 on the top. And I stood there looking at them and trying to decide. A raccoon would leave paw prints, small, rounded. These were smears, long, like something had been wiped or dragged, or like a boot had slipped on wet wood. I couldn't tell. Not for sure. But my hands were shaking when I got the paper towel to clean it up. And again, I cleaned it up instead of leaving it for Tyler, and I still don't have a good answer for why I did that. Maren mentioned the man 2 more times during those weeks. Once she said he was at the fence. We had a section of old split rail along one side of the yard. I asked her where, and she pointed, and there was nobody there. The second time was at night. She came out of her room around 9, walked into the hallway, and told me the man was looking in her window. I went into her room. The window faces the side yard. Dark, nothing. But the curtain was pushed to one side, and I knew I'd closed it when I put her to bed, because I'd been closing all the curtains every night for weeks. I closed it again. I put her back to bed. She fell asleep in 5 minutes. I stood in the hallway with my hand on the wall because my legs didn't feel right. I called Tyler. He said he'd check outside in the morning. He checked. He said the ground underneath her window was soft from rain, but he couldn't see clear footprints. He said it was probably the porch light reflecting off something, and Maren saw a shape, and her brain made it into a person. I said, yeah, probably. That night after he left for work, I moved Maren's mattress into our bedroom, told her we were having a sleepover. She thought it was fun. Jack was already in his crib in there. I closed the bedroom door and locked it, and sat on the bed and listened to the house. Around 11, the motion light went off. I looked at my phone. The security camera app showed the backyard lit up. Empty. Nothing in the frame. But right at the bottom edge of the image, almost cut off, there was a shadow on the grass. Long, like it was being cast by the porch light behind something standing close to the house. Close enough that the camera couldn't see what was making it. Just the shadow stretching across the lawn, still, not moving, for the entire 12-second clip. Then the light clicked off, and the shadow was gone. I'd been dealing with this for about 3 months when I finally put the pattern together. Tyler worked a stretch of 4-day shifts in a row. He was home every evening, 4 quiet nights. No tapping, no screaming, no motion light, nothing. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks and woke up feeling like a different person. Then he went back to nights on a Friday. The tapping started at 10:15. I was in the bedroom with both kids asleep, and I heard it on the east wall, and my stomach dropped. That's when it clicked. I sat there running through it in my head, and it matched up every single time. Every night something had happened. Tyler was at work. Every night he was home. Nothing. For months. Tyler's schedule was posted on the fridge. A paper printout from the hospital with his shifts highlighted in yellow. Day shifts, night shifts, days off. All of it. Posted on the fridge, in the kitchen, 2 feet from the window. Anyone standing outside that glass at night could read every shift he worked for the rest of the month. My hands went numb. I'm sitting on my bed with both kids asleep next to me, and I'm thinking about every time the garden gate was open, every time the motion light went off, every time Maren said the man was there. The chair turned around facing the house. The mud on the steps. The curtain in Marin's room. And I'm fitting all of it around this one fact. Someone knows when Tyler leaves and when he comes back. Someone has been watching long enough to learn the schedule. And the schedule was right there, taped to the fridge, 2 feet from the window. I called Tyler. I told him the pattern. And for the first time, he didn't have an explanation. He was quiet for a while. Then he said he'd call the sheriff's office in the morning. He called. A deputy came out that afternoon. Tyler took the day off. The deputy walked the property, looked at the tree line, checked the windows. He told us it was probably animals. Said they get a lot of calls from people new to rural properties. Foxes, raccoons, bears sometimes. Said to secure our trash and maybe get a dog. Tyler asked about people. The deputy said there weren't any reports of trespassing. He'd make a note and have patrol swing by when they could. But patrol out here meant one car covering 50 miles of mountain roads. He gave us a card and left. That night, Tyler was home. Quiet, nothing. 2 nights later, he was on nights. At 11:15, something hit the back door. Not tapped, hit. One bang that shook the frame and jolted me off the bed. I grabbed my phone, went to the bedroom door, and listened. Nothing after that. One hit and done. Morning. I checked the back door. There was a dent in the wood, low, about knee height. The wood was splintered where something had struck it, fresh. I took a picture and sent it to Tyler. He didn't say anything about foxes. Tyler started trying to get off nights. Put in a request with his supervisor. She said she'd work on it, but it might take a few weeks because the night rotation was short-staffed. A few weeks. I sat at the kitchen table and counted the night shifts between now and then. 8, maybe 10 more nights alone. He bought a security camera. Wireless, mounted over the back door, pointed at the yard and the tree line, connected to an app on both our phones. First night he was on shift, we both watched it. Nothing. One motion alert at midnight. The clip showed a raccoon crossing the edge of the yard and disappearing into the grass. Tyler texted me a raccoon emoji. I almost laughed. Second night. Motion alert at 10:40. I opened the app. The clip showed the yard. Grass, tree line, edge of the porch light. Nothing moving. But the camera had triggered. Something had been in the frame and was gone before the recording started. Or it had moved to where the camera couldn't see. Tyler said, probably a deer moving fast. I said, okay. Third night, 2 alerts, both empty. Just the yard staring back at me through the app. Fourth night, 1 alert. I opened it and the clip was dark for the first 2 seconds, and then the image adjusted, and I could see the yard, and there was nothing there. But at the 7-second mark, the camera moved. Not a lot, just a small shake, like something had touched the mount. The image wobbled for a second and then settled. The camera was mounted 8 feet up on the back of the house. I didn't tell Tyler about that one. I sat in bed with the phone in my hand and watched the clip 4 times. And then I put the phone face down on the nightstand and lay there looking at the ceiling. Around this time, Marin stopped talking about the man. Just stopped. She'd been mentioning him every few days, and then nothing. I asked her one afternoon while she was coloring. She looked at me and shook her head and went back to her picture. She was drawing our house. Little stick figures inside it. Me, Tyler, Marin, Jack. And outside, at the edge of the paper where the green crayon became the trees, there were more figures. 3 of them, standing in a row at the tree line. I didn't ask about the drawing. I looked at it, and my mouth went dry. I put it on the fridge. Then I took it off the fridge and put it in a drawer. I haven't looked at it since. It finally happened on a Wednesday. Tyler had left for his shift before 7, normal evening. I fed the kids, gave Jack a bath, got Marin into pajamas. Everyone in the bedroom by 8. I'd been sleeping in there with both of them for weeks now. Door locked, phone on the nightstand. I'd started keeping a hammer under the bed. I don't know what I thought I was going to do with a hammer, but it was there, and I could reach it. Both kids were out by 9. I lay there scrolling my phone, checking the camera app. Yard was empty. The house made its normal sounds. Fridge cycling, floors ticking. Nothing wrong. Around 11, the tapping started on the east wall. I closed my eyes and let it happen. I was almost used to it. It went on for a while, and I lay there thinking about Tyler's shift request and how many more nights I had left. The tapping stopped. And then I heard something new. The front door. Not tapping. The knob. Someone trying the knob. I could hear it turn and catch against the deadbolt. Slow. Not rattling it, not forcing it. Testing it. Then nothing. Then the back door. Same thing. The knob turning, catching, stopping. I sat up in bed. Jack was in his crib. Marin was on her mattress on the floor. The bedroom door was locked. I was staring at it. A window. Somewhere in the house. The sound of someone pushing up on a window. Then another window. Different room. They were going around the house, trying everything. And they were calm about it. No rush. Just checking each one and moving to the next like they were going through a list. I had my phone. I called 911. I whispered. I said someone was trying to get into my house and my kids were with me. I gave the address and the dispatcher said she was sending someone. I could hear it in her voice. We were 40 minutes from town. She said stay on the line. Then the kitchen window broke. Not a crash. A crack and then a pop. And then pieces falling on the counter. Then the frame sliding up, wood scraping against wood, and weight on the kitchen floor. Someone stepping through onto the linoleum. I got off the bed. I picked Jack up and he woke up and started fussing, and I held him against me. I shook Marin's shoulder and she opened her eyes, and I told her to get up right now and be very quiet. She looked at my face and she didn't say a word. She just stood up. 4 years old, and she looked at me and knew. Footsteps in the kitchen. Then I heard another set. Then another. Not echoes. Not the same feet in a different room. Different people. Moving through the kitchen, into the front room, spreading out. I heard a chair scrape across the floor. A cabinet door opened and closed. They weren't rushing. They weren't tearing through the place. They were moving through it like they'd been in it before. Like they already knew where everything was, and they were just confirming. The dispatcher was on the line. I could hear her talking. I wasn't listening. I was watching the bedroom door handle. They were in the hallway. The floor creaked right outside the door. Steps getting closer. Stopping. The handle moved. Someone pushed down on it, slow, and it caught on the lock and held. They tried it again. It held. I was 3 feet away with a hammer over my shoulder and tears running down my face. And Marin pressed into my legs so hard I could feel her shaking through my jeans. A sound from the other side of the door. I've tried to describe it and I can't do it right. Air pushed through teeth. Not a word. Just a breath that had something behind it. Like whoever was standing there wanted me to know they were standing there. Then footsteps walking away. They were in the house for 43 minutes. I know because that's what the call log said. 43 minutes from when I dialed to when the deputy's truck came up the gravel. 43 minutes of people walking through my rooms, opening cabinets, moving things. I heard glass break once more. I heard something heavy drag across the living room floor. At one point it went quiet for a long time, and that was worse because I didn't know if they'd left, or if they were standing still somewhere in my house, listening for me, the way I was listening for them. Marin sat down on the carpet and pulled her knees up and put her face down and didn't move. She didn't cry. She didn't make a sound. She just folded herself up and disappeared into herself. Jack fell asleep against my chest because he was 18 months old and didn't understand any of it. When I heard the deputy's truck on the gravel, I heard movement in the house, and then the back door opened, and then nothing. By the time he came in with his flashlight and his hand on his belt, they were gone. The kitchen window was broken out. The front room was taken apart, couch shoved sideways, shelves cleared, the TV face down on the floor, drawers pulled out in the kitchen. But nothing was missing. I went through everything. Nothing was taken. They didn't come to steal. They came to go through it, to open everything, touch everything, be in every room. The deputy asked me if I was sure nothing was missing, and I said I was sure, and he wrote it down, and I could see on his face that he didn't know what to do with a break-in where nothing gets stolen. Because that's worse. If they took something, you can tell yourself they wanted your stuff. If they don't take anything, you have to figure out what they actually wanted. 2 more deputies showed up. They walked the property with flashlights. They didn't find anyone. I called Tyler. He left work. He was there by 1:30. He walked into the house and looked at the kitchen and the living room and the glass on the floor. And then he came into the bedroom and looked at me and looked at Marin on the floor. And he stood there for a long time. Then he said, "Okay." That was it. Just okay. I knew what it meant and he knew what it meant, and neither of us had to say the rest of it. I put the kids in the car that night. Tyler followed me down the mountain in his truck. We got a motel room off the highway. I carried Jack in, and Tyler carried Marin, and we put them in one bed and sat on the other one, and we didn't talk for a long time. I never went back to the house. Tyler did. He went back over the next couple of weeks to pack everything up, get our stuff out. He did it during the day. He never went alone. His brother came with him, or a buddy from work. I asked him once how it looked and he said fine, and I didn't ask again. We listed the house. It sold for less than we paid. Whew. We didn't negotiate. Nobody was caught. The deputies came back once, asked more questions, said they were looking into it. I called once after that. The woman who answered said she'd pass along my message. Nobody called back. We're in a townhouse now. Neighbors on both sides. A streetlight in the parking lot. I can hear the family upstairs at 9 o'clock, and I don't mind. I don't mind any of it. Tyler works days. Different hospital, shorter drive. He doesn't talk about the property. I found him a few weeks after we moved, scrolling through the old listing photos on his phone. The porch, the yard, the mountains from the back of the house. I walked past and didn't say anything. He closed the app. Marin started preschool in the fall. Her teacher says she's doing great. Social, reading above her group, happy, normal kid. But she checks the windows. Every room she walks into, her eyes go to the windows first. She doesn't say anything about it. If you weren't watching for it, you'd never notice. She walks into the living room and looks at the glass before she looks at anything else. She does it at Tyler's parents' house. She does it at the grocery store. She did it at her preschool orientation, walked into the classroom and looked at every window before she sat down. She's 5 now. She doesn't talk about the man anymore. She doesn't draw him. I think she's already forgetting the details, the way kids do, the way they're supposed to. But her body hasn't forgotten. Every room she walks into, she checks the glass first, just for a second, to make sure nothing is looking back at her. I catch myself doing the same thing. I just don't want to think about where she learned it.
If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing. There's always another one coming.